Class, good afternoon. Okay, so today in our mathematics, we are going to start looking at topic number 15, which focuses on statistics. Now, in order for you to put this particular topic in context, I would like you to understand this introduction to statistics. As you start to study on your statistics, you must first understand the definition of statistics in mathematics. By definition, I would like you to know that statistics is a branch of mathematics that involves the collection, organization, analysis, interpretation, and finally, the presentation of data. So, when it comes to statistics, we are going to be studying on how this data, is interpreted and then presented for people to understand what that data is all about. Now, for you to understand statistics even better, you must understand the meaning of the word data. Now, the word data simply means information. So, when you hear the word data, we are simply talking about information. So, don't get confused by this word data. Once you have understood the definition of statistics in mathematics, I would like you also to know the fact that a question on statistics in mathematics paper 2 comes in each and every exam session when it comes to section B. Now, I would like you to also know that a question on statistics is very simple. So, make sure that as you are going to be writing your mathematics exams this year, you attempt a question that will be given to you on statistics. Okay, I would also want you to know that a question on statistics has two main parts. These parts are, number one, the calculation of what we call the standard deviation. Now, this part on standard deviation carries 6 marks. And then the second part of the question on statistics will have to do with the graph work. This part that involves graph work also carries 6 marks. So make sure you understand both these parts as I'll be teaching you on statistics. Once you have understood this introduction to statistics, I would now want you to understand the types of data in statistics. So, under this aspect, I would like you to know that there are two types of data when it comes to statistics. These types of data are, number one, ungrouped data. Number two, grouped data. Here, we are going to start our, lesson by learning and understanding what ungrouped data is all about. Now, ungrouped data is the type of data that has not been grouped in categories. So, whenever you look at a table that contains data and that data has not been organized or grouped in categories, just know that you are dealing with ungrouped data. Ungrouped data is also known as raw data. Now, for you to understand what ungrouped data looks like, I've given you this, excerpt from an exam question that contains ungrouped data. Now, in this question, the Examinations Council of Zambia said a farmer planted 60 fruit trees. In a certain month, the number of fruits per tree was recorded and the results were as shown in the table below. Okay, so once you come across a question in statistics and then they present for you a table such as this one, this is what I would like you to know. The data is always on the top part of the table. The data is always on the top part of the table, and then the bottom part of the table will always contain the frequency of that data. So the top row will contain the data itself, and then the bottom row will contain the frequency of that data. Now, when you look at this particular type of data that we have right here, this type of data is what we call ungrouped data. Why is it called ungrouped data? It is because when you look at this data, it has not been presented in categories or ranges or intervals. It is not data that is in intervals. It is just raw data. Okay? So the way you interpret this data is like this. When it comes to this farmer and his fruit trees, you understand that he was counting the fruits that each tree had. So 2 trees had 1 fruit on them. That is what this means. So fruits per tree. So we've got 2 fruits that were on 1 tree. So 1 tree had 2 fruits. And then here 5 trees had 3 fruits each. 4 trees had 4 fruits each. 6 trees had 5 fruits each. 10 trees had 6 fruits each. And then 16 trees had 7 fruits each. And then 18 trees had 8 fruits each. So when you look at this data, it has not been presented in intervals. And because this data has not been presented in intervals, we call this type of data ungrouped data. Once you have understood what ungrouped data is all about, it is now time for you to understand the second type of data in statistics that we call grouped data. Now, grouped data is the type of data that has been organized or grouped into specific categories. So, grouped data is simply the opposite of ungrouped data. In grouped data, the information or the data that has been collected is organized or grouped into specific categories. These categories are called intervals or ranges of data. Now, for you to understand what grouped data is all about, I've gotten for you this extract from the Examinations Council of Zambia exam questions on statistics. In this particular question, the Examinations Council of Zambia stated that the ages of people living at Pamozi village are recorded in the frequency table below. Now, remember what I said? I said data is always found on the top part of the table that you are given, and then down there is always the frequency. So the frequency in this case is the number of people that have been given or recorded in this table. Now, when you look at our data carefully, you are going to discover that this data has been presented or organized in intervals or ranges. So we have the people of ages between 0 and 10. So the people of age between 0 and 10 were 7. The people between the ages of 10 and 20 were 22. The ages of people between 20 and 30 were 28. And then the ages of people between 30 and 40 were 23. And then the ages of the people between 40 and 50 were 15. And then the ages of people between 50 and 60 years of age were 5. Now, my interest here is to teach you how to recognize or identify grouped data. So when you look at this data, you can see that it has been presented in intervals or ranges. Whenever you see data that has been presented in intervals like this, just know that you are dealing with grouped data. Now, what I would like you to take away from what I've just taught is that in order for you to calculate the standard deviation correctly, you must learn to recognize the type of data that has been given in the question by the Examinations Council of Zambia. Recognizing the type of data that you are dealing with is very important because the formulas that you use to calculate the standard deviation differ depending on the type of data that you have. The formula that you are going to use to calculate the standard deviation for ungrouped data is slightly different from the formula that you are going to use to calculate the standard deviation when it comes to grouped data. As such, I would like you to follow me very closely on what I've just talked about when it comes to the types of data that the Examinations Council of Zambia can present you with when it comes to statistics. At this particular point, I would like you to know that our lesson for today on statistics has come to an end. I'm going to see you again later when we shall learn how to calculate the standard deviation when it comes to ungrouped data.